The Flames' playoff hopes take another hit after a crushing OT loss in Anaheim. Hey everyone, welcome into Hot Topics. This episode brought to you by ProStars Plumbing and Heating, Calgary's first choice when it comes to plumbing and heating. Rob Wong joined alongside by Postmedia Calgary Flames writers Wes Gilbertson and Danny Austin. And guys, what a disappointing loss, to say the least, for the Flames on Wednesday in Anaheim. A 3-1 lead blown pretty quickly by the Flames as the Ducks score in a span of 8 seconds to tie things up, and then Cutter Gauthier wins it in OT. Wes, we'll start with you. I think the question everybody has this morning, what went wrong for the Flames there in the final 4:42, and what do you think this ultimately means for their playoff hopes?
Yeah, I don't want to nitpick your vocabulary, Rob, but if that's just going south pretty quickly, I'd hate to see what really quickly looked like, because that game changed in 8 seconds. The Flames were up 3-1. It should have been sort of cruise control from there, and then bang, bang, it's a tie game, and the Ducks finished the comeback in overtime. The Flames obviously settle for one of those loser points that nobody wants at any time of year, let alone this one. And you're asking the question that I think is on everybody's mind here in Calgary this morning, which is, okay, is that it? Was that the nail in the coffin? The funny thing is, and you know, we've talked lots about this, but they're not actually, like, I think you expected to wake up and see that their playoff odds had, you know, fallen from slim to minuscule. And because the Edmonton Oilers did them a favor by beating the St. Louis Blues, that's not actually the case. And yet, from a kind of feel standpoint, from a kind of vibe standpoint, it's hard to imagine that they can bounce back from what happened in Anaheim and get the points that they need over this last stretch. Like, just to quickly run through what we're looking at, the Minnesota Wild have 93 points. They're in 7th place, 3 games to go. So 93 points for the Wild, 93 for the Blues, who only have 2 games to go, and the Flames have 88 with 4 games to go. So they could get to 96. It's easy to see how, with the right help, 96 would get you past 93. And yet I think the focus is sort of recovering right now from that gut punch and really wondering if 8 seconds will ultimately be the end of what has been, kind of that ongoing wildcard chase for this team.
Yeah, and I mean, I personally think it probably will be, if I'm being totally honest with you. I said before the trip that I thought they needed 4 points out of San Jose and Anaheim. This was always sort of one of those, a bit of a gift from the schedule makers, it felt like. And then they only got 3, and that does feel like enough. And I mean, the question is, like, we want to fit everything into these tidy narratives. And the tidy narratives would be, okay, they got a 2-goal lead, and they felt like they had it in the bag, and they turned off a little bit, and they relaxed. I don't know if that's true. I did. I had a face mask on. I was hanging out on the couch. Wes was writing the story. I thought I was starting to think about today's stories about, you know, how they might be able to pull this off. I don't know if that's actually what happened, but, like, I do know. I was looking this morning, and I mean, the Flames, it is worth noting that there's been a lot made about their ability to come back and win games when they're trailing heading into the second period, or into the third period, I apologize. They have also lost 1 game in regulation and 5 in overtime. Protecting third period leads has not necessarily been a strength of this team, and that may wind up sort of defining their season, because the reality is, if you're not going to score a lot of goals, you also have to make sure that you protect your own better than any other team in the league if you're going to overcome one thing with the other, and they haven't been great at doing it. I'm not sure it totally applies to what happened last night. I do feel like that was just a moment where it all went to hell. Am I allowed to say hell? I don't know. But, you know, it does feel like it was disastrous, even if the standings don't necessarily reflect that.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, to your point, you can look at those 8 seconds and say that was sort of the end of the season. But dribs and drabs through an entire 82-game schedule, Wes. And, of course, there's going to be a lot of moments that you can kind of pinpoint that have kind of led the Flames to this moment here. So as we look ahead in these final remaining games, as you guys have pointed out, the chances are still slim. They're still there. But I think a lot of fans this morning are maybe looking ahead towards the future, and even maybe maybe these final 4 games here with a couple of young kids in tow, and Zayne Parekh and Aydar Suniev, who are with the team, have not yet made their NHL debuts. Danny, do you feel as though we could potentially see one or maybe both of these guys if things ultimately continue to go the way they have here for the Flames in this final week?
Yeah, I mean, if they're mathematically eliminated, I expect that we see both pretty much right away. That's how you do it. With that said, like Wes and I were talking last night, and I went from writing a Q&A with fans yesterday afternoon being like, guys, just relax. Zayne Parekh doesn't need to get in, to by mid-game yesterday being like, I don't know, man, maybe he makes them better. Like maybe their power play could use this guy. I still think it's a stretch. And I still fundamentally, like, I know that your hardcore fans who only care about, wins and losses may not care about this, but like I still am personally a believer that this group got you here and they deserve their chance to finish their fight. And I do genuinely think that. Like, I'm not sure that Zayne Parekh is going to come in and be Cale Makar on day one. So I don't know that he improves you enough that it's worth sacrificing the fact that there are a bunch of guys here who, whether they make the playoffs or not, and I know this isn't easy for some fans who have sort of been throwing fits all year about rebuild versus retool, but like this has been a pretty surprising season. We got to remember where we thought they were going to be, and I think these guys deserve to finish their fight. The second it's done, get the young guys in. Let's see them. Once the math tells us it's over, but I don't. It makes me a little bit uneasy, the idea that the players who have sacrificed for 78 odd games would have that opportunity to finish it taken away from them.
Yeah, you have to keep in mind sort of the way it comes across for the coach and the boss, which is, you've asked the Calgary Flames, if you're Ryan Huska, you've asked this team to, play this really taxing, grueling, relentless style of hockey for 78 games. And if you go into the room and say, hey, well, I know that we still have a mathematical chance to make the playoffs, but it's time to start auditioning the kids. It sort of throws in the face everything that you've asked for from the group. And so I do understand the coaching decision here. It didn't just start after the collapse in Anaheim. Long before that, there were people in Calgary, they just wanted to talk about Parekh and Suniev. The narrative all week around Flames fans has been to use Danny's filthy language, why the hell isn't Zayne Parekh playing? And yet, remember, he just arrived from junior on Tuesday, and he's, I believe, 16 months younger than Cale Makar was when he made his NHL debut, and on and on. And so I'm as excited as anybody to see Zayne Parekh, who's coming off a historic season in junior in terms of producing offense from the blue line. We've heard a lot of things and seen it with our own eyes that Aydar Suniev can shoot the puck at an NHL level. Like, this guy can rip it, and the Flames need some of that. And yet I think we're closer than ever to getting our chance to see them. So maybe just a few days of patience, and then we'll see what the kids can do.
Well, 4 games left in the year. Another proverbial game of the season coming up on Friday as the Minnesota Wild will head to Calgary, with the Flames still holding on to a little bit of hope here, but we'll see how it all shakes down. As always, leave your thoughts in the comment section below.